Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I have a bit of a longer video for you today, much longer than usual. This page took me such a long time, but it's so worth it in the end. I had to stop twice to drive my kids around, and we had lunch in between and all sorts of life things happening in between, but we got there in the end. I really love this page, and I think I might try and recreate something similar on a canvas to hang it in my home, but we'll see about that. So I'm going to combine a lace cut page with the 711 million flowers that I made. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with Marlene's layered flower stamp, and I just mass made a whole bunch of flowers, and they make me so happy. So I grabbed the hexagon star stencil, and I've just stenciled out 3 sections on my page with a little bit of black gesso, and I'm making sure I've got a sharp tip on my cutting blade, and I'm just going to cut away the black bits. So initially I thought I was very clever and brave, and I'm going to do all of the little bits. I'm going to cut out all of the little bits, including the tiny little triangles. But I soon realized that that was just not going to happen. You'll see in a second that I actually tore the first little bits of tiny triangles that I did. And then I decided, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do some of the triangles, but on the stencil, they are kind of squashed together. So it'll just be a bigger pattern. And this is where I tore my page, and I thought, well, it's not a train smash, I'll cover it up. But then I just went on and did my cutting. I did pause the recording for you, so you don't have to sit through watching 10 hours of cutting. So by the magic of editing, you only get the last little bit. So the easiest way to do a geometric shape like this is to just turn your page, do all of the straight cuts down, then turn your page again, do all of the straight cuts down, and again. Then you don't wobble your wrist so much. There's not as much strain on your wrist and your hand. It's all just cutting straight lines down. So I'm just finishing up the tiny little bit. I knew from the start that this page was going to be blue. You know me, I love a good blue background. But I also knew that it was going to be, or I thought that it was going to be a little bit grungy. So I didn't mind the black stenciling that was left over. So normally I would cover a lace cut page with black gesso anyway, but this time I was not going to do that, but I wasn't faffed about the black stenciling that's left over that I didn't quite manage to cut. You can see all the tiny little triangles. Most of it gets covered up and you don't even notice it in the end. But I really loved how this turned out. Okay, now I'm going to just clean up my things and get some paints out. So I'm going to use Marlene's Mermaid, Heaven, and Azure, and I'm just going to apply that using a clean makeup sponge. And like I've done my 3 sections of lace cuts, I'm doing 3 sections of each of the colors, and I'm going over the lace cuts to just try and blend them in, and I will be blending the colors as well as I go. Normally I would use I call it the rule of thirds, or the rule of threes. I guess that's from my photography background that I call it rule of thirds. But normally in my pages I would do 3 sections, either 3 sections of coloring, or 3 sections of images, or mark making, or stamping, or stenciling. The eye really likes the number 3. And by doing threes, you're kind of creating a visual triangle. So if you're looking at my page, those 3 sections that I cut, they do make a little bit of a triangle. So it's easy for the eye to follow the flow of the page. Okay, time to audition some of my flowers. Look how beautiful and bright they are. I must say that even in real life, these flowers really are this bright. I used a watercolor paint. It's a cheap one that I picked up, and it's neon, and it is just spectacular. The brightness of the paint is phenomenal. I don't know what the name is, but I can say that it's wonderful. So yeah, they didn't lose their brightness. So a lot of time with acrylic paints, especially with the neon colors, they do lose their brightness as they dry, but these watercolor paints actually didn't. I knew I wanted this arty girl on my page. I really resonate with her because I too wear glasses and I love a good dungaree, or overall, if you want to call it that, farmer browns. I don't know what you call it in your country, but I call it dungarees. I absolutely adore them. I've got a good couple of sets in my cupboard and I wear them all the time. So I was really excited about this little arty girl. Fun story, while I color this girl in, when I was little, I used to also love dungarees. And then one day I said to my mom, I need to get new ones. Mine are getting old or small or whatever. And she said, they don't make those anymore. They're out of fashion. And I was absolutely devastated. Like, I can clearly remember we were in the car on the way back from school, and I was devastated about the fact that I couldn't have dungarees anymore. And finally, I've been waiting for 20 years, lurking in the shadows, dungareeless, and now they're back in fashion. So I'm very happy. Okay, I'm using some of Marlene's paints, acrylic paints, watered down. I'm just using all of the purples, and I'm just making kind of a watercolory wash over those overalls. I'm going in with my paint pens to do the tiny details. She's got brown eyes like me and also brown hair like me. And I've got proof again for you that I do have a head. I'm not just talking hands. So there you go. You'll see my head often in this video because I had to move my camera up quite a bit with this bigger size journal from Marlene. So now you get to see my head a lot more often. On the face, I'm going in with the cream colored. I don't know what the color is, but it's also from Marlene. And then I'm just using, I think it's called blushing, to just tint her shadowy bits a little bit more, make them a little bit more pink. She has pink lips, and I'm just darkening up all of the blackish bits. Now, my paint wasn't quite dry on the face when I did the glasses, when I outlined the glasses, so it leaked out a little bit. My head, I apologize. But I just fixed it up with a little bit more paint, and it worked out all right in the end. So I'm just going over the black details again, and there was a lot of faffing about. Then I start on the paint tubes and paint brushes, and at first I thought I'll make them really colorful, but then when I got to the paintbrush and the pencils, I chose to make them a little bit more green. My thinking was that my flowers on my page do not have leaves in them, so the paintbrushes and the pencils would kind of offset the bright flowers, and they'll act as leaves, even though they're not leaves, but they are the color of leaves. So in my mind, it makes sense. I hope it makes sense to you too. So there was a lot of faffing about, and somewhere around here I had to stop and drive my kids around. Also going in with a little bit of coloring pencils just to brighten up those colors and make them pop a bit more, because I felt like she was a little bit dull for everything that was going on my page with those bright colored flowers. And in the end, I think I managed to make her look nice enough and like she belongs. So yeah, just faffing and faffing, adding details and details, and really just getting lost in the process and showing you a lot of my head. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I'm sorry about that. Okay, after the break, I have cut them all out, fussy cut them, and now I'm starting to think about how I'm going to bring this page together, because obviously the background is way too dull for me. Definitely needs a little something to make it busy and exciting. So I've grabbed out the Azure paint again, and then this trio of stencils that Marlene has just released, and I'm using this chicken mesh kind of one, and I'm just doing reductive stenciling. So the first time I lifted that stencil off the paint, I actually said, "Oh wow," out loud, because it's just so beautiful. It's so delicate. It leaves such a beautiful pattern on your page. And I think with that hexagon stencil, it worked particularly well because it kind of extends that shape and that pattern, but it's just a little bit different. Now I'm just seeing how I'm going to place all of my little goodies there. And I do sometimes remember to shift the page up again so it's more on screen. And that was another break. You'll see the light change and the angle changing. Sorry, it was a long process to get this done with all the breaks in between. So in that little arty diary stamp with the girl, there's this little mark making patch as well. And I'm just using that to add a little bit of darkness out from underneath the flowers, just to separate them a little bit more off the background, but also adding that darkness so it acts a little bit like a shadow. And it just makes things look a little bit more interesting. And when you take the page and you look at it, there's something more to look at. And I did the same with the little card suit stamp. It's got the spades and clovers, I think, on there. And I'm just adding a little bit of darkness to the page. All right, so I'm going to stick my flowers down. I'm gluing only in the center of my flowers, as always, because I want to be able to lift them and put things underneath. And then the tiny flowers, I'm actually sticking down with a little bit of foam tape just to pop them up and give them a little bit more dimension and interest. And I really like how that turned out. So in the close-ups in the end, you will see that there is one picture where I specifically took a photo of the flowers from like an angle, so you can see how they pop up off the page. A little bit of shuffling around with those three to decide if I wanted the blue flower on the blue, but in the end I did. And just sticking. So after my mess make session of flowers, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with all those flowers, but I'm really grateful that Marlene's new journal is this big, because it can take a lot of flowers. So I'm sure that by the end of this journal, the flowers will be finished and have been put to good use. Okay, here I go with my little paint brushes and paint tubes, and I'm just popping them in here and there and everywhere in between the flowers. And again, this is just one of those little fun elements again that make you take a second look, a closer look at the page. So when you first pick it up, you won't maybe notice that there are paintbrushes in that. But the more you look into the page, the more you're actually going to notice these tiny little extra details. And I really like that about this page. I must say, this page makes me so, so happy. I think it came out beautifully. And again, I'm faffing with the hair and the highlights and everything on this girl, just to make her look as vibrant as the rest of the things that are going on. She needed a little something to stand on once I've decided where to put her. And I'm using this scallopy stamp from the same set that she was in. In the end, you don't really see that stamp all that much, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. At least it gave me an indication of where I wanted her. So just also lifted the page up a bit so I could see exactly where I wanted her, but I decided that she belonged tucked in behind or amongst those flowers. Now the search is on for my Stabilo All Pencil, and when I eventually find it, I will go in and do a shadow underneath her just to ground her a bit. So I didn't feel like she needed to be grounded too much because she was tucked in underneath those flowers. I felt like that was grounding enough, but I did want to do a little bit of a shadow just by her feet and around her on one side. Just adds a little bit of a illusion of dimension, and like she's not flat on the page. And I'm doing the same thing around the flowers, not all of the flowers and not on all sides, just here and there. I am going in around the paintbrushes and tubes as well, just to make them look like there's a little bit of dimension. So this last little bit was just a little bit of faffing, perfecting things. Well, I guess as perfect as my things will ever get, because you know I'm not all about that. I really, really like the combination of the lace cut and the flowers. I knew that I was not going to cut a whole page of that stencil. So that's why I kind of chose just 3 little spots to make it a bit more of a manageable goal. Okay, the girl has some little hairs sticking out from her head, but obviously I wasn't going to fussy cut around that. So I'm just drawing them back in and darkening up some of the details in her hair. And I'm really glad that I did that because it really did make a difference. And I'm doing little pearly dots in her hair as well. A little bit of highlights in the eyes and on the glasses. And also on the shoe. Her shoe is also shiny. And on the back here, some of the foam tape, obviously because they're double-sided, was sticking through the cut bits. So I've just stuck those, I've just covered it up with a little bit of masking tape. And I'm just adding a tiny highlight on some of the petals on the flowers. And that really, really brought these flowers to life for me. They were really gorgeous before, but when I did that, I was like, okay, yeah, this I love. And then when I am done with all of that, I am going to take out, I gave her pink cheeks and a little bit of highlight on her lips. I'm going to take out the gibberish stamp. No, first I'm going to find a quote. And I chose one that says, color makes life more beautiful. Color makes life beautiful. Something along those lines. And I am going to cut around each of the word. I didn't want to put down just one big blob of black. I thought that it would make, it wouldn't look right. So I'm cutting them up into tiny pieces and plonking them down. And I chose to do it down there in the corner I thought first I might do it at the top there because it was looking a bit bare, but again, it didn't make sense when I looked at it to do it that way. So I've just got it all down the bottom there. And now I'm going to use the gibberish stamp with a white paint pen, and I'm just putting a section of it into the paint and then putting a section of it onto the page. And I really, really like how it just added an extra little bit of texture, extra bit of just an extra layer of interest, and yeah, and some white space as well. And I did spend a good amount of time to clean that stamp off properly, because obviously you don't want your paint to dry onto your stamp, because that'll just ruin the stamp. And I also went around the bottom there where the words are, and I just did a little drop shadow underneath all of it, again with my Stabilo All pencil. But first I make a heart on her chest. I really like putting hearts on my people in my journals. It just feels like they become a little bit more human that way. And that's it for this page. A long one. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I've inspired you. And please, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. Leave me a comment, and I will chat to you again very soon. Bye.